coming to you from Battleground, Washington. This is the Flirting with Reality show, starring Carol and Eric. Welcome to the show. And this is week something, podcast number 45. It's the beginning of June 2024. And that's where we're at.
Is.
So, what are we talking about today? You know what we're talking about?
Probably the same stuff we usually talk about, which is life and the craziness of life and what is reality and can you manipulate reality and all that good stuff.
Well, maybe here's something we could talk about then. Like I was saying yesterday I went out into the real world. And, anybody that's been watching our podcast knows that we stopped going to the gym, stopped going to yoga, stopped kind of going out in public in order to save money.
Yeah.
Cut back on costs. But for you, you have a job where you are in the middle of public regularly. For me, I work from home and I never leave. I leave on Wednesdays when I'm with the kids, and maybe on the weekends I'll go somewhere for a couple minutes. But I haven't really been spending much time in society for. How long ago did we quit the gym? Year, probably, right? Oh well, it was. We went on vacation in July last year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a year in like 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So anyway, I haven't spent much time in public in society for about a year, maybe 11 months. And I went and kind of socialized a little bit yesterday, and I just could I've always been a little bit weird, for sure. But now it felt like I couldn't really talk to people. And I guess I kind of have been struggling with my kids too, because I think my kids they're getting a little older, and they're kind of getting to the point where like dad's an idiot,
Yeah.
But then they have influences too, that their influences don't like me a whole bunch, and so I'm sure they have, those influences they're dealing with where like they're told I'm an idiot, and then they might be coming up to age that I'm an idiot. But it seems like conversations are starting to get to the point where they don't want to hear what I've got to say anymore. And then I think that's kind of how I feel about Joe Public. Is Joe Public wants to talk about TV shows and jokes that are on TV and, whatever, American Idol. I don't know. That show's probably been off the air for about a decade, but they want to talk about simple things. And then I think you in my life makes it kind of worse because you and I like to go deep into, like this podcast. We like to talk about, how would you categorize what we talk about?
I would say we're pretty philosophical about life.
That would be a great way to put it. Philosophical. But it's like I've always enjoyed like philosophy. I've always enjoyed like, why is this and why do people think this? And like I've always been super curious, and so to me it doesn't make sense why people don't want to talk about those sort of things. But I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that I guess probably don't want to talk about it because it's scary, or you got to face reality, or
I think that's just it. A lot of people are in their programming, living this materialistic existence, just being kind of superficial. And I just don't think they're capable of having a deep conversation because they're so just living a shallow life, I hate to say. But it's kind of, I mean, I think we look at the state of the world and you see the backlash of all that. But yeah, I don't think they're capable of having those conversations. I
Well,
don't even think they're aware enough that they're not capable.
so here, I think this sounds weird because I've never thought of it. And I don't know how many other people have thought of it, especially when you're having the discussion we're having right now, like who thinks about these sort of things? Like apparently a lot of people don't because I'm meeting a lot of people in public and people don't want to have these kind of discussions. But um, lately, like I've never been willing to accept the idea, but lately I'm starting to think about, things we talk about, such as being in the matrix or being programmed. But to me, it's becoming like more apparent that people are not even, they're not here, they're not thinking. And so, like I'm saying, it's a lot of people learn how to act. And then that's what I'm saying. Like they watch TV and they learn jokes that they saw on a show and they see that other people like those jokes. And so they tell, like, you ever been in like a group of friends and they tell like the same kind of joke over and over, or they tell a joke they actually saw on a TV show over and over and over. And it's kind of like, if you don't watch those TV shows, I mean, I guess to preface this, I haven't had TV, an actual TV, since they made us get the digital antenna on the TV, which I think was 2008. I said that was it. I'm not paying $50 for your stupid antenna. So, so I haven't watched TV at all since 2008. So I mean, we're coming on like almost 20 years. I haven't watched TV, but I didn't watch TV a lot before then. But my point is like when people would talk about, it's like Game of Thrones or like all these popular TV shows. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like I remember people were talking about who's that Joe Tiger guy? You know what I'm talking about? That happened during COVID. The guy that
Yeah,
the
I know.
reality
I
show
didn't
guy.
partake.
But people were like telling jokes about that and like the girl that he was feuding with.
I remember seeing the memes everywhere and just having no idea what was going on.
No, that's my point. There's like you can look at memes and you're like, I don't know what you guys are even talking about. It's like you guys are speaking a totally different language than me. But that's exactly my point. Is people talk in memes and they talk back and forth through things such as like TV shows, things that you watched on TV shows.
I don't know if you remember me saying, but we were visiting some people, and I'm not going to say who they were,
Yeah,
but
don't say.
they just kept talking about themselves and things they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of the same thing. Like you can't even like get to know the person.
Yeah.
On a more intimate level, and it's fine. It's where they're at. I'm not making fun of people in any sort of way.
No.
It's just difficult to have deeper connections, especially when you're in a state of heightened awareness. And yeah, it is weird.
Well, no, you're right, because that's the same thing. But actually, I feel like those people are a little bit further advanced to me than like
the TV people.
Well, it's like it's like TV. But I guess this is where I was going with it. Is like there's a lot of people that watch like TV shows and then they talk to each other in this language that I don't understand because I'm not into the things that you're doing. But you're not even doing these things either. Like you know what I mean? It's like weird to watch like a TV show, or like these things like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and then like there's all these people that think they know the Kardashians, and they talk about the Kardashians and what the Kardashians are doing, and like like they're real friends
on a personal
and stuff.
level.
Yeah, and it's all, but that's what I'm saying is it's all like weird. And so I think that's like the stuff that people like to talk about is stuff like that. And so like if I walk in the room and I'm like, I don't know, like talking about this, like, hey, do you guys think it's weird that you guys are all talking about TV shows all the time? It's just I'm fitting in less and less and less as the days go on.
I hate to tell you, but I think that just comes along with like evolving as a person in this world.
But it's weird having like when you were a little kid, didn't you? I mean, there's different versions of it, but you'd see like somebody that like didn't fit in, you'd be like, that person's weird. You know what I mean? It's like
Babe, I was that person.
I know, but I'm saying there's a fine line between losing your mind and becoming like more aware. There's like
yes and no. I mean, yeah, especially, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
well, because there are people that are like, oh, I know some shit that you don't know. And you're like, what? And then they like tell you, and they're like, oh, and then they spit all this crazy stuff out, and you're like, you're crazy. And they're like, no, it's true. Like I mean, there's tons of like conspiracy theories and stuff right now that are.
Oh, you think you're that person?
They don't think they're that person. I don't think I'm that person, but somebody's that person. You know what I mean? Like
I'm
we can't
sure
all be right.
Well, that's true. I'm sure you are that person to some people, but
Oh,
it's no different than like that's just not your people. I don't see anything wrong with it. Doesn't mean you are crazy.
no, it doesn't mean I am, but yeah, to say that I am that person to some people, no, I'm that person to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I
I
always
am
have
too.
been.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But then that's what like flirting with realities means is like, well, what is reality, right? Like, what is? I don't think I'm crazy, but
Yeah, I
nobody
mean,
who's crazy thinks they're crazy. I mean, not many, not many. Most people who are crazy think that everybody else is crazy, and they're the ones that are right. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're talking about. Flirting with the realities is like, what does reality mean, and who decides it?
I mean, you can be open to that, but I think you should also have a strong foundation in yourself and know that you're not a nut job.
Well, isn't the definition of reality? Isn't it based on the conglomeration of thoughts that people have decided to
Who
agree
came up
on?
with that definition?
I don't know. I don't remember where I heard it, but I think that's the closest thing because I don't know if I'd believe in individual realities because I think you could be crazy.
But you have to understand there are so many individual realities going on here.
Oh yeah, they all are, every one of them. But there's like we have to agree on some things, like the sky is blue, right? Don't you?
I mean, I think that there is a level of truth in. Yeah, but I mean, do you? Because there's a whole bunch of people who have color blindness. The sky isn't blue to them.
Okay, so should we just throw out the idea that anybody's crazy? There's no such thing as crazy then. It's
Mm,
just that they're not in your same reality.
no, I'm not saying that. There is a baseline.
Well, who decides that?
I mean, I guess a psychiatrist might decide it.
Yeah, that psychiatrist could be crazy.
I mean, this is the question, is it not? What is
That is the
reality?
question. That is the question.
I think I know what you're talking about as far as we all agree that the sky is blue. We all agree that the ocean is blue, whatever. It could be green sometimes. I mean, there is a group consensus on many things. But I also would like to challenge that things that we've been told are not always necessarily true. So if you can't see, hear, feel, or touch it, it could be questionable.
How about that dude that went up and hung out in Alaska with the bears? He was like, "Oh, bears love me, and I love bears," and he got eaten by a bear.
Hmm. Yeah,
He was not in reality.
yeah. He was in his own reality. But yeah, he wasn't in the majority, like we all agree that that's not something that you should be doing.
Well, but I think that to me, that's what defines reality is like, oh, hey, no, like bears aren't like, you don't hang out with bears. That's reality. You don't hang out with bears. And so I think he got checked. And, I think that's what we're talking about is some people are like, well, who are you to decide what reality is? And I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I guess you just chase your tail with the idea.
I think a lot of people don't. I mean, this is what I talk about, like the institution of church and why people love church so much is because things are structured for them and it's a very safe mental place for them to be.
Yeah.
And another thing that when you start questioning these things, these people who have been in these institutions really get upset. Like you start talking about meditation and spirituality, and you could really like rock some people, and they're just like, no, 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 no. I mentioned meditation to my aunt when I was cleaning her house. So, like, before she was going through all this, a few years ago, I guess. And she was like, "Oh, Pastor Ron," and I'm just making that up because I don't remember what the pastor's name was, told her when she went to Spenard Chapel when she was probably 28 that you don't mess around with meditation. And so it's but anyway, this is like why I believe people can't move past like thought processes and like look at things philosophically and question what you've been told is because they like that safe space.
Well, but I guess I didn't realize it until now, but talking about this Alaska bear guy, there's millions of people sitting at home while that was happening going, what an idiot. Like, what an idiot. Who does that? We all know bears are going to kill you. And they're right. So I think people find safety in that's what you're saying, like going to church, because we all agree I don't have to think for myself because you already told me that bears aren't safe. Like, how many people that were saying bears aren't safe that have never been in the woods at all? They live in like city. Like, you don't go around. You've never seen a bear. You've never like been around bears. You've never even been to the zoo. Like, you don't even know if they're scary, but you just listen to what everybody else says. But people find safety in that, like going to church and saying, hey, love thy neighbor, whatever. But then what about you got to put yourself in the bear lover guy's shoes because while it was working out for him, he's like, people are so dumb. They think you can't hang out with bears. And like he's like petting the bear.
Well, I
like,
think he thought he was special.
You think he thought he was special, or he just knew something that regular people don't know?
Isn't that the same thing?
Well, no, because something I was thinking about is I've had this conversation with somebody where they were like, we're talking about how to get stronger bones. And they're like, yeah, you can just drink milk. You can have milk as calcium and you can get strong bones. And I was like, yeah, but calcium is not going to make your bones stronger. And they were like, what? Like, what? Like, you don't go hang around bears in the woods, idiot. And I'm like, no, calcium, like, I mean, it's like nutrients to make your bones stronger, but you can't sit on the couch and drink gallons of milk and then just your bones get super strong because you drank all this milk. That's not the way it works. Like, if you want strong bones, you need to lift heavy things. That's how you get strong bones. Maybe supplementing with milk would help, but milk is not what builds strong bones. Lifting heavy things is what builds strong bones. But if you ask like the entire world, like, is calcium going to build strong bones? We're like, oh yeah, everybody knows that. But now I'm the bear guy. I'm the bear guy because I'm like, calcium doesn't give you strong bones. This is like saying like, hey,
you're not the bear guy.
in a way, and to them I am. To them I am.
I hear that, but you're a part of a 1% of the world that takes care of themselves and reads up on nutrition and supplementation, and you understand how to take care of yourself. You're not the bear guy. You're not like playing with bears.
But hold on. Because this is what we're talking about, though. What's the definition of reality? Because to them, I'm the bear guy. I'm an idiot.
I heard you. I agree. To them, you are, but you're not the bear guy. To those people who sit on the couch and drink milk and expect to have strong bones and be healthy, you are the bear guy.
No. But so if you go back to what we were saying about like, well, who defines reality? It's not the consensus of people, because the consensus of people, if you take this calcium thing,
this is what we were talking about. There's individual reality, and they clearly have their own individual reality. And I think that has a lot to do with, too, is even if they were like in their mind going, what? Is this true? I think these people probably would never question and ask, just because of the type of people that they are. They just want you to be wrong, even if they're like wondering in their head if you're right.
Yeah. Well, and so, but the funny part is, so like you can have a consensus of people that are right, but you can also have the consensus of people that are definitely wrong. You know, you're talking about that Terrence Howard. He's battling every single person in the world, basically.
Yeah.
With his ideas, and they're all. I mean, he's the perfect example right now. Like they're all going, he's crazy. He's crazy. But then it's like they're, you know, like I'm sitting there going, I don't know if he's crazy. Like
I'm super interested in what he has to say. I think it all sounds intriguing, impossible.
Yeah, but it's so like so interesting because you sit there and go like, well, is he crazy? Like because he's basically like the guy going like calcium doesn't build strong bones, and everybody's like, oh, okay, dumbass. Like you know this whole like 1 times 1. This guy doesn't understand what 1 times 1 is. You know,
I think like, he's more like Tesla, where he's like, I have this wireless thing that would work really amazing, and everybody was like, oh, that won't work. That sounds why would we do that?
Well, but it's so curious though, isn't it? That like, you know, people are opposed. They're opposed to changing their reality.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a simple conversation I had with these people about the calcium. There is no like, well, the Terrence Howard thing, like the 1 times 1. People are not even curious about what he's saying. They just go, he thinks 1 times 1 is 2. He's an idiot. They don't. You got to listen to what the guy is saying.
Yeah.
He's not saying 1 times 1 equals 2. That's not what he's actually saying, in my opinion. I don't know what's in his head, but nobody's curious. Nobody's curious about why don't you think calcium doesn't build bones? You know, but these are the same people that are like, yeah, that like they see somebody like goes to the gym like fucking 100 hours a week that's super jacked, and they're like, he takes steroids and sits on the couch and plays video games. That's why he looks that way. Like, no, come on. You know what I mean? But like I sat down on the couch and I drank a protein shake, and now all of a sudden I've got muscles. You know, stop it with everybody's thinking. You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous, but you can't change people that think like that. I don't know. Like it's something that has occurred to me lately. you know, and I hate to use my kids as an example, but yesterday I got paid for a product, and it's like you and I were talking about it. Is people just look at it and they go, "Oh, well, he's got money," and it's like, dude, you got to stop. It's like you don't see the big picture. Like you don't know if I sold something for $100. What if I had to buy it for 99? You all of a sudden think I just have $100 now? I don't. I have $1. That's how that works. There's like you got to figure all this stuff out, but nobody's curious. Nobody wants to know what's actually happening in the world. Nobody asks questions. They're just this is what we're talking about. Is it the programming, right? They're just like,
Yeah.
ha ha, TV show, like whatever. Kramer came in the door and his hair's crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what we're doing here. And so this is what brings me back to what started this podcast is that's what people want to talk about. They want to go, hey man, did you see Seinfeld last night? Kramer came in and he's like, ooh, George. Like that's what he did. It was funny. You watch that? That's what we want to talk about. And then I walk in and I want to talk about this. And then people are like, that guy is fucking weird. Like, so I don't know. It's
I think when you're intellectual, people think you're weird. And I mean, my son has struggled with that his whole entire life, and I don't think he's weird. I tell him he's super fucking interesting. I
like
mean,
what he gets comments about he has weird conversations or something.
yeah, he's just very like curious and likes to debate and talk about things. And yeah, I mean, it can put you in a category, I guess, but who wants to be normal, first of all, because that seems really boring to me. I don't want to be one of these zombies who's just normal and talks about Kramer coming in from Seinfeld. I want the deep conversations and questioning, well, why do you believe that?
Don't you think maybe it was just my company, but I feel like when we went back to 1990, I feel like there were deeper conversations that were happening. I feel like you could sit down with somebody even in junior high and you could talk about different things. But now it just feels like everybody just wants to talk about what's on sale at
Well,
Applebee's or I don't know.
it's just, of course, getting worse with social media. I mean, I disagree. I haven't been able to have deep conversations with many people.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like I feel like even in the past, if I have been able to have a deep conversation, people like discourage it. They don't want to do it. Or like I guess like a class example, I remember being in my 20s, and one thing I love to do is I'd like to smoke some weed and get high, and then talk about deep shit. And anytime I would get high with somebody, they'd like literally turn the TV on, and then they would just their jaw would drop, and they would start drooling, and I'd be like, "Hey, so what do you think about this?" And like they would just be unresponsive, literally. I can't tell you how many times that happened. I'm like, dude, I'm going home. Like, I want to hang out and watch TV.
Yeah.
But I've had comments about that too, about how if I ever had company over, I how many times did you go like to somebody's house and the TV's on while you're visiting them? You're like, what are we doing? Like, I came over here to like watch TV with you.
I don't think that's happened to me as much.
Really?
Maybe like we'd put in a movie later or something, but it just wasn't like the TV was on while we were conversing.
I always had comments about people that come over to my house and they'd say, "Oh, it's weird to come over and we're not just watching TV together, like we talk." And I was like, I think that's
Yeah, maybe that's a dude thing.
maybe I don't know. It's just I guess like it's always been weird. I've never liked just having somebody over and watching TV with them. I think that's the strangest thing ever.
It sounds strange when you say it out loud. Hey, you want to come over, man?
Well, but nobody ever. Yeah, but That is the weird thing. Is like, hey, you want to come over, and then you go over there, and like you both could have watched TV in your own house.
Sure, what do you want to do, man? I just thought we could watch some TV, and you're like, you need me there for that?
You know what's even more weird is like if you go over to somebody's house, like maybe in your 20s or something, go over to somebody's house and you watch TV and drink beer together. Like,
Yeah, especially in my 20s, there was no TV on when I would go over to girlfriends' houses.
hmm.
But I mean, I had children, so
I literally had a friend from like third grade. I think I met him in third grade all the way into like my 30s. But this friend, anytime I went to his house in that whole age range, no matter what, TV's on. He had like 3 or 4 TVs in his house, and they'd all be on. No matter what room he's in, they're all on. And like, I'd sleep over at his house or something. 7 in the morning, like NASCAR would be turned on or something. And you're like, dude, I'm sleeping, and there's like NASCAR on, but it's just all day long. He watched TV. And you know what he would do? He would do that same shit. Is he would always, in conversation, he would always like quote commercials. Like
well, yeah, because he had the TV on all the time. This
all the time.
totally brought back a memory of mine. I had a girlfriend in high school, and she was spoiled to me because she had her very own TV with like a VCR and cable in her room.
Oh, VCR.
So we did watch TV sometimes when I went to her house, but it wasn't like on all the time. But I remember like it was a big deal because she had cable in her room.
Damn, that was a big deal. How old were you?
I was 16-ish because I drove to her house, so I know I was around there.
The VCR, like that. One of my like memories I like to pull up all the time when I was a kid is my family's. I'm getting a phone call.
It's very loud.
Turn off the phone call. Yeah, I like to drag this memory up, but my family, we never owned a VCR, and we'd rent movies, and so we'd rent the VCR, and this is just how poor my family was with money. Is we rented that damn VCR probably 100 times, right? And like it, whatever it was, $15 per rental. Could have just bought one, but we rented over. And then the best part is you'd rent it. Half the time they'd never return the thing on time, and so you'd get late fees. And it's like,
we rented
VCR.
it too. I remember renting
Really?
it. I was the one who always had to hook it up because my parents were like completely. I don't know how I intuitively knew what to do.
Well, because listen, there's our red connector, and that red connector ironically goes to the red connector on the TV, and then white goes to white, and then yellow goes to yellow. There's 3 colors, 3 cables, and
nobody knew how to do it.
No, I know, I know. But looking back on that, it's like I wasn't really that smart. It's just everybody else. You wonder why your dad has a problem with the iPhone, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and my kids were screwing around at Goodwill yesterday, and I saw there's like piles of DVD players in there for like $10, and I was like, man, like if the kids only knew the struggle of renting. I mean, the VCR is not like a DVD player, right?
Yeah,
for anybody,
sure.
Anybody who knows, a VCR was like a 30-pound, significantly sized thing.
Well, way back then they got smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
But you had the DVD player, or you had the VCR, but then you had to figure out VHS or beta too, right? You're like, I'm gonna rent, like I'm down with the beta. Like
we never did the beta.
No, I don't think anybody did. That's why it didn't survive. But isn't that crazy? Like 2 companies came out and they're like VHS, VHS. And
well, do you remember? Beta. That's what happened with Blu-rays and God, what was the other one? It didn't make it.
I didn't even know there were two.
Yeah, there were two at the same time. And I can't remember the other one's name, but
I stood my ground on that one too, because that was about the same time as the $50 digital antenna came out. It was also Blu-ray, and I already had a DVD player. And they're like, well, now you got to get a Blu-ray DVD. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, so you can see this amazing picture. And I'm like, no, I will keep my regular crappy picture because I'm not buying like $150 to $200 DVD player.
Yeah, now they're like $25.
Yeah. What about the people that fell for the laser disc?
Laser disc?
You never knew about that laser disc?
What was a laser disc?
Laser disc was a giant DVD. It was before DVDs existed, but there were DVDs the size of records. Literally the size of records.
That.
But you'd watch the movie, and then halfway through it'd go, please flip the disc. So you
really?
So you had to get out of your chair and flip the disc over and then play
I never experienced that.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, it was like the beginning. It was basically so big because they didn't know how to make DVDs small yet.
Yeah.
And so it was like pre-DVD, but
holy shit. I didn't even know what a laser disc was.
But what about, I was thinking about this the other day, is I was thinking about how we used to buy a CD for music.
Oh yeah.
People had significant investments into their CD. Like remember, like you'd have the soft case in your car.
Yeah.
Of like 100. You'd have like 100.
I didn't have 100, but yeah.
And then you'd like flip through. You'd spend like 20 fucking minutes trying to find out what DVD you and your friend wanted to listen to or CD. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, damn, what were you talking? $10-15 at least for a CD, probably. Times 100. So I mean, people were like $1,000 in like what? 90s, late 90s.
Think about, I am old enough to have spent a shit ton of money on cassettes and then had to switch over.
Yeah. See, I never bought into the cassette thing. And the thing about the cassette was all you had to do is find a friend that already had the tape, and then you had that dual deck, and you just push record, and you had a new.
Yeah, but
we weren't that lucky with the DVD or the CD.
CDs weren't out yet when I first started driving, or I mean, they weren't in Alaska anyway that I knew of. I mean, I wasn't like super techie, but
did you ever have a car with an 8-track?
I mean, my parents did.
But, I mean, did you ever mess with it?
Mess with it?
Yeah.
I listened to like my dad's Johnny Cash 8-track and stuff.
Yeah, but it was sick because you just push a button and it would fast forward like in the middle of some random song.
Yeah, yeah.
That was poor technology too, but people.
I mean, I grew up, but we had our stereo was an 8-track when I was
in the house.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it was an 8-track and a record player.
See, that's the funny thing is records they're still hanging in there. Anyway, I was thinking about the CDs, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I was thinking about my own personal collection that I still have because I'm just holding on. But for what? Because you can just have a Spotify. You can have a free Spotify account, and you can listen to all the music you ever bought.
Yeah.
But I guess what made me think about that is my friend that had the Laserdisc. They had many Laserdiscs. They invested in those Laserdisc movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they expensive?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like $100 or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
Let me tell you about a story of a movie that cost me $100. Clear and Present Danger. I will never forget. Got messed up in my VCR, and I think it was already messed up. I put it in, it was messed up immediately. And I was honest to Blockbuster about it, and they made me pay them $100.
$100.
$100.
So you should have rented the VCR because then you could have said, well, it was your VCR and your tape, so you could figure it out.
Yeah, that would have been ideal.
$100. But do you ever have any friends? I had a friend, and I remember his mom was obsessive about recording movies off HBO. You'd watch movies on HBO and then just record them on VHS tapes.
Oh yeah, I knew people who did that.
So they had like cabinets full of movies.
Yeah.
Just cabinets. But they were all counterfeit.
Yeah.
And then, like, but how funny is that? You put all that effort into to counterfeiting these movies, and now it's like kind of the same thing. Like you just go search this movie up,
You can
you
pretty
know.
much watch whatever you want. Yeah.
It's insane to think about what like we went through with all this technology, and like you're
Yeah.
saying, like you got caught up in cassettes and then CDs, and I was actually telling my son about I hated DVD or CDs so bad because they were always scratched, and you'd be listening like when I'm driving and I can hear a squeak in the car, it drives me nuts. But even worse is like a CD and it's like chip, 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 and you're like, fuck, fast forward the next song, but you really like that song. So it would frustrate me. And like after you'd pull your CD out of that sleeve, 100, they all got scratched, and like, God forbid it hit the floor and scratched. And I, I hated CDs. But then I was trying to tell my son about like the instant MP3s came out, digital. I was like, deal, sold. I had like pre iPod. I had like a digital little box. And I put my music on there, and I had a headphone jack, and like I figured out how to put it all in there, and like I was sold. But
Do you remember when you had all that free music on Napster? Like it
yeah,
cost nothing.
Napster was a big deal. Well, so hopefully people can understand this is a past life for me. But when I was a kid, I mean, I was probably 12 years old. Do you remember in the magazines like BMG Music or Columbia Music? They would always have the centerfold advertisement that would say, "For 1 penny, we'll give you 10 CDs."
Oh,
Remember those?
I think so.
And I was like, "You're going to give me 10 CDs for a penny? Sweet." And so I sent my selection in. I taped my penny to it, and then they sent me 10 CDs. And I was like, "This is sick." And then a month later, you get another CD and they charge you for it, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" And they would charge you, but you got to remember this was like pre-credit card, and so they would just say, "You owe us $15 now," and all of a sudden like late fees would come in and all this stuff. But I figured out at first, I figured out, well, screw you and sending me this extra stuff every month. I'm just not going to pay you. And I went to collections and all that stuff. But then I figured out I signed up for this like so many times over. Like you could just sign up under like Kermit the Frog, and then they would send Kermit the Frog 10 CDs for a penny. They just trusted Kermit the Frog. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think about what happened back in the day. But I signed up for this like 10 times, and I finally figured out that you can sign up and you can be legit about it. And then when they send you the CD at the month, you just write return to sender on the package, and then they return it to them. And then they'll send you another one, return to sender. About 3 times after you return to sender, they cancel you out and they say, we don't want to do business with you anymore. So that's what I ended up doing. But I basically scammed these people out of like all my CDs. What I had to do. My mom actually found out because I got like a $220 bill from like PMG Music. And I'm like, Mom, nobody cares. Like they're all scamming. They're scamming everybody else. I'm scamming them. It's just like everybody's scamming. And my mom's like, no, you owe them $220. I'm like, ah. And so she made me go sell the CDs that I got from them to pay these people. So I sold the CDs to a CD store, and then I took the money that I sold them, and then I paid them off. And I was like, whatever, Mom. So that was my CD story, but I don't know. It was
That's kind of a crazy story.
it was a crazy life back then.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. Like these people are just like, we'll just send whoever anything. Like there was that
Yeah.
much trust.
Yeah.
There was that much trust, but it's funny because I mean they were scamming people.
Well,
I think
yeah,
they
when they
made
just all of a sudden send you something and say you owe money, like
well, you could probably read the fine print,
probably.
but still, it's like things that you buy today, and they put you on these memberships. Like, dude, it's not honest business.
Yeah, I don't think so. Those subscriptions.
Yeah, that's
I
what
did that
honestly it is.
once with proactive face stuff, and it wasn't even like I'd get like 3 and 30 days, and like it was a hell to cancel it. I kept calling, and like I couldn't cancel it for some reason.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was a
that's
pain in the ass. And this was before like internet stuff.
oh
Like I think I got it off TV or something.
yeah, but I mean that's the scam.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying like yeah, what I did wasn't right, but I justified it in my head because I felt like these people are screwing people over, so
Well,
screw
they
them.
are. Yeah. But I was glad it happened to me because I literally do not do subscriptions. I mean, I would do Netflix again. That's the only subscription that I would do. I think it's a little out of control with every time you buy something on Amazon, it's like if you subscribe, you could save $3, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, but that's the funny thing is everybody does the subscribe to save $3 and they unsubscribe immediately. So it's like there's those fine lines. Like, are you scamming them at that point? I think you are because I think you made an agreement to subscribe to their service, but then you can't. You know what I mean? It's like there's all these like judgment
Yeah,
calls.
yeah. I'm not gonna do that, but I guess it's
But it's easy
how
to
you.
justify, right? It's the same thing as like me ripping those people off is because well, screw that. It's the same thing as like, well, I get $3 off and I can just cancel immediately. Like, well, yeah, they were just trying to like manipulate me, so I just manipulated them back. And it's like, hey, everything
I
works
just
out.
don't work that way.
Yeah.
I have to be honest for myself. So
Well, I think that's what you should do, but it's
yeah,
a judgment call. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd necessarily judge somebody on that one. I'd almost justify it for them to be like they were trying to scam you, so
yeah. I
you
think
turned
it's
around
an
on them. It's like,
individual thing. I wouldn't judge someone for it, but I wouldn't feel good about doing it.
well, but you know what the funny thing is? Like I'm saying, these people would send you 10 CDs for a penny on your word. That's how much people's words used to be worth. Is that these people were willing to send $100 worth of merchandise to Kermit the Frog on Kermit the Frog's word.
Yeah.
And now, no, we ain't doing that. Right? You imagine if you did that today? If you had that service today with no credit card, no like they don't even check your name, they don't check any. Like I had like three different
Yeah, there was
names coming to
no
the same
way to
address.
check your name then.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I had three different accounts of those people coming to the same address. I would spell my name differently and like all this stuff, and
Yeah.
they had no idea. They had no idea that I was the same guy, even though I used the same address with the same like base name over and
Yeah, we
over.
didn't
Like,
have like computer databases, I'm sure, that were
yeah, I wonder how they
amazing
did.
at that time.
They had to run it off some sort of computer. I mean, nobody wrote this down on pen and paper. I couldn't imagine. And Eric,
I just don't think that it was capable of seeing duplicates. It
yeah,
probably was a database, but it just wasn't super smart.
yeah. So anyway, I got all my music and I'm holding on to it. Probably be a tough one for me to let go of, even though it doesn't mean
I lost my music a long time ago. Yeah.
it was all digital.
No. I mean that too, but I lost my CDs.
But do you know how much effort I put into preserving my digital music too? Like I backed it up on my computers, backed it up on like my phone, I backed it up on iPods, I backed it up all over and over, and now it just doesn't matter. Now you don't even need to back it up. You can just get rid
Yeah.
of it. You can just delete it.
Yeah, I mean I don't even use my iTunes. It still exists somewhere
Yeah,
because I had an iPhone.
yeah. But the thing is, like you're talking about, Spotify remasters everything,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a pity if you
Yeah.
like the original stuff.
A
But
pity.
shame. But I was listening to well, I think I was in the car with you. I was listening to like Metallica, I think Master of Puppets, and um, the remastered version sounds pretty good because the remastered version actually has some bass in it now. Like if you listen to the original Metallicas, There's not a lot of bass going on. There's not a lot of like clarity. So I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the remastered versions.
Yeah, some of them can be really good.
Yeah. So I don't know how that conversation turned into
Olden days.
technology. Yeah.
How it goes. We start with philosophy, and then it turns into VCRs and renting them, and then CDs and laser discs.
Yeah. Music. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the future brings, because the future,
Implants, man.
yeah, but it's so crazy. It's and the other thing is like you had to buy a CD. Like if you wanted one song, like "Pour Some Sugar on Me," Def Leppard, you bought the CD. You didn't buy the song. You know what I mean? Like you
There
paid.
were singles, but usually they were shitty, so you had to buy the whole
Well,
thing.
but don't you remember? Like you were like, "Oh, Pour Some Sugar on Me" is just such a good song. I'm gonna buy the CD, and then you listen to the CD and you're like, I don't really know what to think about the CD, but I think it's good. I think I could listen to it a couple more times and I'll get back. Like you didn't really like it, but you talked yourself into it because you paid the $10 or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you'd listen to the whole CD over and over and over, and then you'd really just want to hear that one song. You know what I mean? How many?
I didn't listen to songs that I didn't like.
I think there was a lot, especially
There was a lot.
like especially in the early '90s. I remember struggling so hard wanting good music, but it was all like it was like all Metallica ripoff, you know, like Wasp and like hair bands and like it was just a struggle. And then Nirvana came out, and you're like, ah, yeah, I can take a deep breath. Like there's some good music now.
Yeah.
I'm ranting, but I don't know if I told you this, but I heard someone talking about why kids like uh, music from the '90s or before that, and they were talking about boy bands, and like boy bands came around like in the early '90s, like Backstreet Boys, and they were discussing on how Milli Vanilli maybe that was the beginning of well, speaking of reality, that was the beginning of not being in reality. Milli Vanilli didn't sing that song; somebody else sang it. Like it was fake, and they had their Grammy taken away for that. But then you have like the Backstreet Boys, where everything is on computer. Britney Spears, it's on everything that's done today is like computer. It's not real. Do you remember like hearing about people going to concerts and they're lip syncing? Like that's jacked up. That person, that's all they do now. There's nobody that
Yeah,
sings.
but I want to tell you that a lot of the times if they weren't, you would be upset.
Well, yeah, it goes both ways. but
yeah, so I mean, I think some people just don't sound good live and they kind of don't have a choice.
but here was my point: is so early '90s is what brought in fakeness. And so that's why they're saying the kids today like pre-fakeness is because they were like, dude, shit was real. Shit was real. And like people are grasping for reality, like
Yeah, that's a
realness.
big thing. Yeah.
But it's like you can apply that to music is a big one. Like people want to hear real music. But to me it's like art. Like I don't want I want flaws in my art. You know what I mean? Like that's what reality looks like to me. That's why I never understand like when I make a part, there's flaws in it because I made it with my hands. But to me, that's the beauty. But you can get something made in China from their CNC machines that's flawless. Like I don't want that, But that's why I'm understanding. Like if this is true, what kids want is they want real, But even like Metallica remastered, now it's not real.
Yeah.
But Metallica, like early Metallica, sounded like Metallica playing in their garage. That's how horrible yet awesome it sounded. And while I'm on this rant, Metallica doesn't even understand where they went wrong, but that's exactly where they went wrong. Is they went Hollywood, and that's why everybody said this sucks after the Black Album, because they went fake. Well, we want to hear dudes in their garage that sound awesome, and they left that. Reality, everybody wants reality, and well, I shouldn't say that. I do. Anyway, 55 minutes. I've ranted about nothing. Maybe that's why nobody watches our podcast, is because we talk about like philosophy. We should talk about Metallica and why Metallica sucks after the Black Album, and then everybody will watch our podcast. Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, maybe we should watch some TV and we should talk about TV. That would actually be an interesting experiment. I bet we could watch TV and discuss an episode.
Just put our heads like in front of the
while
TV.
It's on.
Yeah.
Well, I would bet you we would get 10 times the views if you were like, whatever the popular TV show is right now, discussed. That's what people want to talk about.
Well, I mean, I know. Yeah, I think you're right. You know, people do that to TikTok videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm good with I think we got 11 views on our last podcast, which is awesome.
3 of those were me, though.
3 of them were you, and 5 of them were me. And we got 3 other people who are like, "What is this shit?" They turned it off in like 30 seconds. Or we probably have one person. I think we're one person.
We do have a fan who commented, and we appreciated the insight.
But I bet we have one person. I bet they're a hater. I bet we've got one regular person. They're like, I can't stand these people. I'm going to see what they got to say this week.
That'd be weird.
Yeah. Well, tell us if you like this and you watch us regularly, or if you hate it and you watch it regularly. Maybe you should comment.
You could just put a angry face if you don't like it.
Can you still dislike a YouTube video?
I don't know. I would never do that. I would just skip it.
Yeah, what would it take to dislike a YouTube video?
I don't know. That's kind of, I mean...
Like where you get really upset over a YouTube video, you're like, thumbs down. Thumbs down, comment, this is stupid. Like,
yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't even leave a comment if I don't like something. I just move on. So it would take a lot for me I just wouldn't click a dislike button. Not in my nature.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, you got anything else to say?
No, really, I'm all talked out.
Yeah, no, you've been getting after it
tonight. I know. Whew. I've just been a rascal all day.
Well, that's true. Okay, so YouTube and Spotify, and I guess we'll see you next week.